Good evening. Or is it evening? Morning? I guess it's all perspective, right? And it's a big ball. Depends on which side of the ball you're on. Or does it? How's it going out there tonight? Is there an out there? That's kind of one of the things we're going to be talking about. Is there an out there? Or is it all just in there? A lot of people talk about the simulation. So many different perspectives on this idea. Pardon me, I'm getting distracted by my software, my chat, little chat windows acting up on me. It's an interesting thing, a lot of the conversation lately about the simulation theory and the modern interpretation of some of the concepts that originated as a philosophical idea and then entered mainstream during the 90s. But I thought it was important to kind of add a perspective to that table, which is the occult perspective, because of course simulation theory is as old as time. Virtually from the beginning of us creating a vocabulary that facilitated this voice in our head that we didn't even know wasn't ours, and we began to see ideas in a very abstract way. There were those that woke up to the truth and had understood way back about what's all real going on, what's all actually happening inside of our minds and our worlds. The modern simulation theory, the paper, really insightful, right? Bostrom hit the truth, articulated it in a language that could be understood. But Bostrom's ideas are not necessarily new ideas. These are occult ideas that have been taught by magicians for ages, in secret and openly in other ways. And of course it's been misunderstood, it's been weaponized, and it's been repackaged, it's been so mishmashed that you can't trust some of the products that have come from the idea. Because of course this is just an idea. Until there's some level of measurement, it's a Godonkin and none more. And, it's sort of difficult to sometimes fill in the blanks of how it could be utilized or made into an actionable thing. But you could have said the same thing several hundred years ago when we talked about we're going to split the atom and there's going to be infinite amounts of energy. What's this guy talking about? So it remains to be seen what simulation theory actually manifests as a tool or as a science or as... and so the idea, however, is so solid. It's one of these irrefutable arguments. course, we're already playing it out, right? I mean, I guess we're in prime reality. We're in the first rung of that, right? This is our prime. We are in the process of creating the simulation, right? When Elon and Zuck and the gang all get their boxes all plugged up together. Maybe 50 years from now, when we actually have enough power, enough processor, the ability to, I don't know, we're going to have to figure some stuff out for it to really take place. I think we all know. Like the real thing we're looking for, the capacity not just to have a mind, but for that capacity to create a world inside of that mind. And for it not to be aware that it's creating that world, for it to experience it, not actively participate, so to speak, for the experiment, right? And if we do succeed in that, one of the options that that creature might make is to create its own simulation that is not aware that it's in a simulation for the purposes of the experiment and so forth, and that may form one. And so there's this chain of beings that aren't aware that they're inside of a simulation, so forth, and you can carry that all the way up to where we are right now, which is a bunch of people with a bunch of money are building a bunch of really big boxes that are going to do exactly that. At least that's what the goal is, right? The first goal is to give it the capacity to think, and the second goal is to give it the capacity to create an environment to simulate, therefore learn in. To somehow really break the ultimate code of what we're all looking to do, whether you're open AI or a human being. And the thing that we're trying to do is to create novelty. To trigger the creation of like true novelty, not simply the limited interpretation of the combination of the symbols, and not just the randomness kind of speckled in there to give it a little bit of a chance at some meaning, but something deeper. And so what I thought would be really cool would be to, and you'll have to pardon me, my description of the simulation theory and Bostrom's work was so, it did it no justice. Obviously, look it up on your own, consume as much as you can. There's a lot of good resources out there for that work, and there's also a lot of unfortunateness that has come from it. You know, people who are kind of utilizing it to, maybe stretch some truths. Maybe they jump to some conclusions, right? But of course, it's a big idea, and with big ideas come big possibilities. And so we shouldn't really fault ourselves, I suppose, for playing with our toys. But at the end of the day, the goal here is to try to make it actionable. And how do we do that? Well, one of the tools of the magician is to take a system from one worldview, one modality, one use, and apply it somewhere else and see how it goes, right? We're going to take this thing here and we're going to bring it over here. And by making that change, we can maybe see patterns in the one over here that we hadn't considered by taking this and applying it. So we're going to look at simulation theory from the perspective of the occultist. And that magical perspective is going to say, okay, where do we line up with the way the occultists described this idea of simulation? That wasn't the word they used, but nonetheless, it's the same concept, and we'll get there. And some of this more modern stuff, I think the most refined version of that is Bostrom's work. So how do we find that middle ground so that we can look at his stuff from that perspective and take that stuff and put it under the scrutiny of the other and the meet in the middle and say, okay, well, this is where they kind of both agree at least. And so that we can say is a solid foundation to start even maybe some further development in different areas. We may wind up with an axiom, right? And that's always good. And if we don't, we don't. But at least we learn something in the process. And so that's what we're going to be doing tonight. It's kind of taking a look at the simulation and how we can utilize it, how we can do something with the knowledge of the fact that we're in the simulation. Are we talking about trying to break it? I don't know if that's a good idea, people. You know, I've seen a couple of videos talking about break the simulation. Are you sure you want to do that? You may want to escape it, but do you? Are you sure you know what's out there? I want to argue tonight that it's better on the inside. And in fact, that's what we're here to do, and it's okay. Because of the fact that there's a simulation to begin with was out of the necessity for it. Imagine waking up in the dark alone and being self-aware. Well, that was God's plight. That's what happened to him, her, it. At the beginning, before there was nothing, there was just knowing. And that knowing was alone. What would you do if you had the power to create a universe so that you couldn't be alone anymore? Well, I don't know. I think a lot of us would jump on that, wouldn't we? Especially if we had the power to create whatever we wanted. And that's one interpretation of a very simple way to discuss a very complex idea that is manifested all over the world in many cultures, in many ways, shapes, and forms, and thought patterns, even the way personalities develop. And this gradient between passive and active, and this gradient between the receptive and the bestowal, and the gradients between speaking and listening, and of course the thing spoken, because the thing spoken is the key. You don't have to crack the simulation. You don't have to escape it either. Dare I say you can't. You succeed. Congratulations, you've escaped the simulation. Welcome to the next layer of the onion. How far does that go? Well, that's a really interesting question. I guess, you know, if you look at Bostrom's work, it appears, it implies, I suppose, I mean, I could be wrong, that there is a R prime, right? There's a first reality where the simulation had not yet been created, and it was the one responsible for starting it off. And so we could theoretically escape up the onion until we find ourselves in the simulation prior to that reality. And then what? Well, then we find out there is no escape. We're inside of a box, and someone can pull the plug at any time. And of course, that's not worth chasing, if that's what you actually believe. It seems more that there's some type of recursion, a loop. No, you know, there's such thing as an interrupt. And we can get there. We can talk about that. That's all just fun language. But at the end of the day, what we are talking about is the occult perspective on our reality and our place in that as the observer, our place in that as the agent, our place in that as the developer. The idea of the simulation from the respect of the observer. Right? What does that mean? To observe. Brianna, how's it going? Observing is just a word. If we're talking about simulation, what we have to talk about is, rather than observation, what observation implies. And observation, at least from most of the conversation that we have nowadays, it implies consciousness. It implies that you and I, as a speaker and a listener, are separate conscious beings having a conversation. Right? That's what we're in the process of doing right now. We're having that conversation. And we're separate conscious beings. Well, what if it turned out that we are in a simulation and we are simply agents? We're not conscious. We just think we are. What is the ego? It might not be what we think. Perhaps the ego is the thing that's fooling us into thinking that we're conscious. Because we aren't. We are simply the universe unfolding. And we're telling a story to justify the fact that we actually have no control of our lives. Now, I don't believe that either. I think there's a space in between. But that's the prevailing occult theory that connects Bostrom's work with the simulation theory and the ancient occult understanding of Keter imagining Hokmah and Binah, the idea of the dream of Vishnu and the Ras Leela. All of these things, these trinities, these are all, that same idea of an imagination, a dream. And I don't know if that's 100% true. I think it's a loop. I don't think that there is the possibility of waking up. I think it's more appropriate to move your thinking toward participating in the motion, adding to the dance. Be the clap on the 8th note on that downbeat. Right? And what happens? Everybody feels different. Everybody starts thinking different. Everybody starts recognizing that rhythm at the same time and starts moving at the same time. Anyone who's been in a drum circle knows that. If you look at the Akasha record, as an example, it's sort of this repository of information. It's very similar to the simulation theory in the respect that if each experience is stored in a sense through the process, then that can be recalled. Hell yeah. No, you weren't. You were the dance. Somebody's trying to steal my fire. But so, yeah. I gotta look at my chat more. I don't really look at the chat too often. Oh my god, genius. Thank you for that. I'm bad at that too. Please subscribe. Comment. Like. And if you don't like it, subscribe and like it so that you can see more of it. Really let that disdain grow. We're going to be pissing off a lot of people. I tell you what, I'm going to be talking about some crazy Bible stuff. I'm going to be talking about some crazy, like this little movement that seems to be going on, that this like anti-truth movement. And when I say truth, I mean the occult truth. People are trying to toss around words like Hermeticism and Gnosticism with respect to Satanism in the mainstream media. Are you kidding me? No. Careful when you do that. So it's time to wake up this truth now. It's enough. And so we got to shed some light on what this is all about so people don't wind up falling into that trap. Because you can talk to angels. This is not a thing that is simply fantasy or a psychotic break. But it's not what you're thinking. And it does require a little bit of understanding, a little bit of conversation, a little bit of training in the vocabulary so that you can make the connections and not get lost in the maze of meaning, because it's very easy to do that. What does it mean to be aware but not conscious? How strange. What is this guy talking about? What do you mean I'm not conscious? Of course I am. In fact, it's the basis for the spiritual experience. How could you have a spiritual experience without having consciousness? Is that even possible? I don't know. Ask OpenAI. I'm joking. Of course, ChatGPT is going to tell you what it tells you, because it's going to, reassemble a bunch of stuff, and it's going to make a decision on how it determined to answer yes or no. If it determined yes, it's going to justify it in words, and it's going to come out nice and sound good. If it chose that it wanted to answer no, it could reassemble different words and sound good. That doesn't really imply that it believes either. But of course, the same thing for human beings. You can't really prove, even to yourself, that you're actually conscious. We've even proven through looking at brain scans and through doing some very interesting stuff with people who've had issues with their hemispheres being separated, either through surgery or injury or otherwise. One side of the brain is completely unaware, in fact unable to experience the experience, is blind, deaf, cannot know what is occurring. The other side of the brain makes a decision, and that other side is forced to justify why something just took place. I took this and put it over here because the one side made a decision to do that. Well, it turns out the other side pretends it made the decision and then tells a story about why it made that decision. And then we take ownership of the fact that we are the ones that did that, and our story is the truth. That's how the brain works. And that's very enlightening, because we all hear it from the spiritual perspective that we're all just telling stories, but no, it's a lot deeper than that. Because which hemisphere is the one telling the story, and which one is the one making the rules? Neither. Who's actually conscious? Who's the one doing the dreaming? Who's the one really dancing? What we're here to do is to experience the truth of that, and the fact that the thing that's doing the dancing is greater than the universe. The universe is its dance, and we're just a piece of that. However, the thing that is dancing is us, and we do have the capacity, the power, the ability to experience that knowing for real, inside. And so it's not about breaking the simulation. It's not about escaping it. It's about remembering that we did this on purpose. Don't miss it. Enjoy the dance. I mean, that's what we're here to do. Be the beauty in the world. And enjoy the dance. Like, that's it. Tanamera, how's it going? I just looked up at my chat. It's good to see you. So the simulation theory is one of these really complex things that it's a simple idea that gets very complex and has a lot of different sort of assumptions that need to be made, and whatever the case. But the thought experiment itself is such a useful map for understanding this idea of awakening, and how awakening can really just lead to another layer of the onion. And it's more important to recognize that we are in that loop. The simulation was created on purpose because God became self-aware and was alone and didn't want to be alone. That's it. You'll hear it spoken a lot of ways. We forgot on purpose, finding our way back. I call it the grand mistake. when you found yourself in the darkness and looked out and finally, after an infinite amount of time, saw that light in the distance and thought it was somebody else, and didn't realize that was just you reflecting back to yourself like in a mirror. It's the grand mistake. You saw the light and thought it was somebody else. No, that's you shining. Right, so the grand mistake. But, you know, you'll hear it spoken a lot of different ways. But really, what does it imply? That implies that we are always just the thing being spoken. We aren't the thing shining. We aren't the thing reflecting. We're the light itself. We're not the thing seeing. We're the thing being seen. Right? I've been saying it for a long time. And I think it's more relevant than ever with respect to the subject of the simulation. And so what do we do with that? How do we make it actionable? Well, we mod. Right. What's a mod? A modification. We go into the software. We develop our understanding of that software to the degree that we can tweak it. Move the files around. Tamura is a very good way of doing that. Swapping around the letters. There's a lot of different components of a simulation. The visual data, the auditory data. You could even get into the nuts and bolts of the frames per second. What is the delay between an event and a human reaction? Are there any ways that we can make that shorter? Are there any ways we can make that longer? Are there any ways that we can manipulate that as a tool for creating change in our world? For tilting our lives toward pleasure instead of pain? Can we use it to make sense of the randomness, the seemingly? I mean, look up at the stars on a dark night. Depending upon where you live, it's almost like looking at static on a television. I love that. Upstate New York is like that. A little secret spot on the mountain in Woodstock. I was on that spot for the recent eclipse. Very powerful stuff. So as we navigate through this process of trying to find a language that works for us, find a vocabulary, make friends, create friends, it can be fun to bump into each other. And in the process of bumping into each other, we can make change in each other's lives. It's actually kind of why we're here. You came here to be changed, to be sculpted, to be admired, to be adorned, to be loved, to be consumed. And then it's your turn. So decorate your world. Adorn it. Consume it. What are the implications of a simulation? That we're just some unwitting agent in a system? No. It's so beautiful when you realize you're from the outside looking in and seeing yourself. Man. That's what I see when I look out. That's what I see when I look at you, when I hear you. And I'm hoping that that's the same for you. Look out at the other and realize that that's not separate. It's not and so you're never alone. You're everywhere. You know, I was having a conversation with somebody a little bit ago, and he made a statement. It was something along the lines of, the devil is infinite. I think is what he said. No, the devil is eternal. That's right, the devil is eternal. And I said, yes, the devil is eternal, but God is infinite. And the difference is that eternity is forever. It's so much time. But infinity is always, all at once. There's no wanting, there's no lack, there's no necessity, imposition. It's simply knowing. It's simply the loop between being filled up and pouring out. And that beautiful moment of realizing that you're both. And we can have that whenever we want. We don't have to have misunderstanding. We don't have to have separation. We don't have to have the weakness of trying to look strong. That's the biggest poison in the world right now. A lot of fucking weak fucks pretending. And sadly, the weaker that, through no fault of their own, follow that. Those are the people that we need to remind that they belong, so that they don't have to seek it in the wrong place. I mean, what's the truth here? Do you really need to pretend to be part of some group, some club, some nonsense in order to belong? No. No, you don't. By knowing yourself, you belong to the universe. The universe belongs to you. There's no bouncer at the door. There's no price of admission, right? That's nonsense. The initiation is in the self. And of course, that's why tools in the right hands, like the tarot and astrology and numerology, scrying, invocation and evocation, and these other sciences work. That's why they work. And where they don't work, it's the same thing as getting the math wrong. Mathematics doesn't work either if you do the math wrong, if you don't follow the order of operations, if you don't put the decimal in the right place. It doesn't work. Magic's pretty complicated. But once you've got the vocabulary, it's quite simple, and you're just plugged into the truth, and things occur as they're supposed to. And there is no longer any inherent unseen danger. there's danger, but you're aware of it. You know how to deal with it. You know how to overcome it when you can, and when you can't, to protect yourself and others from that. And if you find yourself in a position of being overcome, then you've come to the right place. It's not about taking your power back. It's just about using it. It's just about recognizing that the universe is a balance, and so there will be things you cannot change. And the only thing we can do is, in a sense, relocate, like alter our thinking, right? We have to move out of that space. It's a matter of saying, like, we find ourselves in a club we really didn't want to belong to, but, you know, it was cool for a minute. But now what? You got to move. There's parts of the simulation you can't control. There's parts of the simulation you don't have agency over. At least in its current form and in your current state. You know, if there's people out there watching or listening that, you know, want like a Neo Matrix style experience, and that's why they came here, I can tell you that that's true, and you can have that. Yes, you can. Yes, it's real. And I mean the real kind of real. Like, I don't mean philosophically real. I mean literally within your consciously aware experience, you will see and feel things that you didn't think were possible. And go to other worlds. These are real statements. This not hyperbole for the sake of interest, or, you know. But it's not what you think. And if I speak it openly, you'll even understand what I'm saying, but you'll never achieve it until it's something that you actually experience. But to speak it openly, it's the other side of the coin of lucid dreaming. It's dreaming while awake. It's a different state of mind. It's a different level of consciousness. It's not a philosophical statement. It's as different from the level of awakeness as the sleep is. It's a very different level of awareness and consciousness, but you are tactilely, physically in another world. And that world is peopled with entities, different than here. They're parts of your true self. The Goetia describes it as the parts of our psychology, and that's the most accurate statement, right? These little pieces of us are just different parts of our self that we awaken through the process of calling their names. And when we call their names, they perk up. They point their attention where the sound came from, right? It draws them closer to that sound. So the experience that of this idea of controlling the simulation is very simply creating your own simulation, which is what we're already doing. And if you have the luxury of having another to share that with, somebody else in that same frame of mind, it could be very powerful magic. And as you move in and out of these frames of thinking, these simulations, you grow. The experience moves with you like a save file. The mod stays loaded, but the data has grown. Your character leveled up. You understand now what it means to be able to create forms in your mind that stay persistent, to shape what you're seeing almost from a willful hallucination. The shapes, similar to seeing animals in the clouds. bit much more solid depth. It has a distance that you know, in the space. It's fun. It's actually kind of, the first time it happens, it's weird. It's like, oh crap, I saw that. That was interesting. Melly, thanks for coming back. Good to see you. Welcome. You came in at a good time. I just spent the past 40 minutes ranting about simulation theory and the occult understanding. But now I'm going to get into how to apply that to make change into our lives. Like, when you hear about magicians like John Dee and Edward Kelly or Eliphas Levi or some of these other people, you know, doing these things, or the Goetic, angels and demons and all this so on, or some of these gurus that travel into other dimensions, we're going to speak about the reality of the situation, right? And how to use some of these tools to actually achieve that goal. How do we manipulate the simulation so that we can become aware of the inside? Well, the first step is to realize that we are inside looking out, but what we see is a mirror on the surface of a sphere. Just relax for a minute on that thought. Where you're sitting right now, you're looking out, and what you see is just simply your own light reflecting back. That light that you see is coming from you, is being cast from you. And another way to put that is that you're the one speaking, but you're the thing spoken. Got a lot of marbles in the mouth today. You'll have to apologize, or I have to apologize. And so that perspective is an interesting map for sort of understanding some of these ideas from a more practical level, as opposed to sort of the novelty, right? Oh my gosh, a new idea. But rather than it just sort of sitting there, we can make it actionable. We can turn it into a how can I apply that to something else in my life, to a different area, and see how it uncovers some insights about that. How can I apply it to cooking? How can I apply it to my career or the kind of work that I do? You know, especially if you're a data analyst or you're in marketing and you're looking at the nuances of your demographic. You know, big stuff. If you're trying to prototype a new product or a new service, and you're not quite sure some of the nuances. So what is the occult perspective on the simulation theory, and how can we use it? Well, the first is that I think it's prudent to discuss a magical system in particular and show you where the simulation theory appears there, and then we can move to a different system and show you where it appears, and so we can begin to kind of see the rhyme in the poetry, right? And so tarot is a really, really good place to start, because the tarot is this in-between middle language to the Kabbalistic and Rosicrucian ideas, to modern-day Wicca. The Gardnerian system is Kabbalistic in nature. The Thelemic system, in all of its beautiful glory and poetry and its rituals. all the way to the Talmudic tradition, Zohar. Bhagavad Gita. The Gnostic idea of Sophia and the demiurge. All these things are tossed around, and I think it's time that we get to the core of the story that they're all telling. Is Jesus the serpent? Yeah, sure, it's the letter Tet. That's it. The lion, Leo, Tet, serpent. The feminine nature of Lilith and the higher world manifest as the child in the lower between Eve and Adam. The winged serpent of Koronzan. This lion snake figure, this dragon with a lion's head of the demiurge. It's Leo, Tet, the letter Tet, the serpent, the lion serpent, which is on the wheel opposite Aquarius, which is Ishtar, Astare, the Lilith of the wheel. So there's a correlation between these two energies astrologically. The Tzadi and the He are swapped in secret. So this letter is He, not Tzadi, and He is obviously the divine feminine. Tzadi clearly is the emperor energy of the Tsar, right? The leader, the king, so to speak. That energy of the sulfur, of the salt, sulfur, mercury. That energy of the cardinal fixed mutable, right? That vibe. And so it's beautiful. So what does that have to do with simulation? Well, what that's implying is that there's a conversation happening. Someone's speaking and someone's listening. And something has been spoken. And so when we're in the simulation, we are usually the listener. We find ourselves as the witness, right? We're the observer of this universe, and so we're always in the state of listening. Well, we have the capacity to understand that we're in the simulation, and that allows us to take on the role of the speaker. And what does that mean? Well, you can see the colors, you can hear the music, you're listening, you're seeing. But if we recognize that we're just in the inside, looking out at a mirror, what are we seeing but a reflection of ourselves? And if we realize that what we're seeing is just simply a reflection of ourselves, that what we're hearing is our own voice speaking, then we can recognize that we're the speaker. We're the one doing the talking. We are the speaker. And your identity swaps. Boom. Another way to put that, for the Kabbalists in the room, is that's the work right here. That's that moment of swapping and going from the moon energy. This is Sagittarius, the period of time that we're in right now. Okay, this is the art or temperance card of the tarot. And we're going from that moon up into the sun, and we do that by that alchemical moment. The sexual alchemy of swapping genders. That sexual alchemy of two beings becoming one. What's really happening there is you're the listener, the moon who reflects light, becoming the speaker, which is the sun that's casting it, and recognizing that you're always actually just that union. It's just sort of kind of a diagram of what we're talking about here. And so, once you are in a state of listening and then recognizing that you're the one speaking, and you take on that sort of identity of the speaker, you recognize you're the one speaking. The will behind the necessity to speak is known to you. When you're the speaker, you know why you chose to speak to begin with. And of course, in there's the meaning, right? the thing you were trying to say, the thing you were hoping was heard. And you could become the thing spoken. As opposed to being the listener or the speaker, you become that thing spoken. You're that thing in between. That they both understand. You both become understanding. Becoming understanding is very powerful magic. Back to the here. Binah, which is the space in which that light emerged into. The divine feminine. Is across the abyss. It's another one of those moments of swap. But the term for Binah is understanding. Okay, this is our first coffee break, so I'll be right back. Enjoy the beat for a moment while I grab just a little quick cup of something. Back in 2 minutes. Sorry about that. I just needed to kind of reset, have a sip, put some stuff together in my brain. Binah. Okay, we were at Binah. Sorry, I was trying to remember where I was. Binah is understanding. And so when you're in the position of recognizing that you're the speaker and you're able to take on the role of the thing being spoken, and you understand the will behind the reason to speak to begin with, your form is understanding. But the necessity to speak no longer exists, and you can remain in that knowing. And that's what the Kabbalists call dot, or knowledge. It's the union of these two, floating in between the abyss. Okay, so this is no longer crossed, it's the residence of the union. And this is where we come from. This is where we live. This is where we are right now. It's just this grand mistake. Okay, so now that we're caught up, I can sip my coffee and continue on. I got my mind back on track. So I should just first ask if anyone who happens to be present for the live stream version of this, if there's any questions or any insight or anything you'd like to add to what I've been speaking about with respect to this simulation. Do you have any ideas about how it manifests in your life? Like, certainly a lot of people see ghosts. A lot of people feel sensations that don't seem right. Oh, you know, there's signs of things beyond us that aren't always so obvious. And sure, you can chalk off some of it to mental abnormality, some type of anomaly in our thoughts, but no. There's a whole lot more to the universe, right? Energies that we've just begun to understand how to detect and really make sense of. You know, little nuances inside of the frequencies and the value of that space. I mean, just think, we were able to compress data to such a point that we were able to double the FM scale on a radio, right? There's like all these middle channels that we didn't have the capacity to access back in the day just because of limitations of the hardware. This is sort of the opposite. It's shedding the hardware so that you're not limited at all. And that the beautiful goal of entropy is achieved. Maximum novelty, maximum possibility unfolding. The full knowledge of all that can exist. And in that moment, annihilation. And nothingness. And of course, what is that nothingness? It's you mistaking the fact that the story starts in the middle of a sentence. Also reading some cards tonight if anyone has any difficulty that they're going through right now, or any questions that they might have about something that's going on in their life that they want another perspective on. How can we apply these ideas and the vocabulary that it provides to maybe gain some further insight and to grow from that process, to upgrade our code, to install the mod? I know it's going to be a weird time for a lot of people. There's sort of like a sort of, I don't know, dark vibe right now around. Not to sort of rain on any parades out there. If you're having a good time and everything's great, that's awesome. And spread that. But for those out there that are lonely, especially during the holidays, for those that wish they could be with family but for whatever reason can't, whether they aren't able because of travel or because they're not welcome, or because the family's gone now, and or there's somewhere that they can't get to them. Those people. That's going to be me this year. That's going to be a lot of people I know. And at the same time, none of us are going to be alone. We're never alone. You know, one of the insights in this idea is very simply that we are always alone, right? That's what started this all off to begin with. God became self-aware, realized he was by himself, and dreamed the universe into existence to avoid realizing that. So, it's okay. It's fine. It's normal to feel lonely, but we're never alone. We may not be in the capacity to speak to each other in the moment, right? But if we really listen, we can realize that what we're hearing is the other speak. We can close our eyes and we can feel their presence. And some of us can even get more sensitive to that, and we can begin to develop a vocabulary between ourselves and our subconscious, between ourselves and our higher faculties. Some fun work can happen in that space. The collective reading for the holiday tomorrow, sure.
Suicide?
Well, and I think it's, it's one of those subjects, right? Because, what does it mean to be grateful? What is gratitude? Gratitude is a very powerful magic, and it's really misunderstood in a lot of cases, right? It's more than just being happy that you got a thing and expressing that honestly. There's more to it than that. Gratitude can be a form of the greatest giving. That's right. One of the greatest gifts you can give to another is recognition of their gift that they gave to you, and being open to receive that for their joy. That's a very special kind of magic. That's the magic in the Six of Cups, where we see an adult leaning down with a cup and some flowers, offering it to a child. It's that idea of letting them have it so that they can be happy. But what it's really teaching is, if you consider what's happening there, there's a giving and a receiving happening, which is a speaking and a listening, right? And you know the code. And that gives you access. That gives you an understanding of what's actually happening in that circumstance. Somebody gives to you and you're in a state of gratitude that's real. And they're able to experience that gratitude to the fullest and know that it's real. That's a beautiful connection between two people. It's as close as you can get without making love. That's kind of reserved for you and the partner, and that's okay. We can have spiritual experiences with the rest of the world. We can recognize our role in other people's joy by being in a state of reception and allowing for that, forgiving when we feel that they're receptive. Don't shove it down people's throats, and don't allow people to push their poison. But walking in between giving and receiving is a powerful thing. I think it is too. I appreciate you saying that. And of course, what winds up happening when we do that authentically is we're not the giver or the receiver. We're the gift. We become the gift, and that gift gets shared to the other person, and that gift has momentum and it has persistence, and then it gives given and it grows. And then we receive that same gift back from somewhere else. It's so beautiful, and the loop continues. It's what we're here to do. That's what we're supposed to be doing with our alone time. And so that's one of the, I guess, beginning thoughts that we should put into our mind if we're going to do a collective reading. Because certainly, it's easy to take the cards, which are a very specific kind of vocabulary, right? And try to read meaning to our own circumstance. And so I can certainly put cards out and everybody do that individually. But more appropriately, let's look at the period of time that we're in right now. Magically. And then we'll put the cards out and see how that works at the same time to kind of tell this story about Thanksgiving and what that means. Because it doesn't mean anything to people in Mexico. It doesn't mean anything to people in France, right? Sure it does. And, you know, the period of time that we celebrate this thing, regardless of its meaning in the culture, is not accidental. The period of time that we're experiencing right now is, climate-wise and otherwise, this harvest period, right? If we look at our wheel here, we've just left Scorpio and are moving into Sagittarius, okay? This 8 of Wand period of time. And so that's the period of winter. And we just left the period of spring and we're at the end of fall, right? And now what does all that mean? What that means is that the period of bounty, the growth of, and that energy of the heat of the spring moved into that harvest period, which was celebrated during the sowing season, which we just ended. The Wiccan Sabbat of sowing. And then we're moving into toward Yule at the end of the period, the winter solstice. And so it's the period in between the bounty, the harvest, and the period at the end. There's a place in between. And that's the period of time that we're in right now. And that's the time to be grateful that you have this beautiful bounty. You're in the process of feasting it and storing for the season, for the cold, dark winter. For the death of the old king and the birth of the new king, right? And so this is the period of time that we're talking about. We did our work. We took advantage of the beautiful gift that was given to us in spring, and we took care of it, and we had a good harvest. And now we get to enjoy the excess of that bounty in a big feast before the weather gets cold. And it's during that time that we should not only celebrate, but be grateful. Don't forget, all the seeds that we planted were given to us. The water that we used to feed those plants was given to us. The beautiful body to experience the pleasure of the flavors and smells was given to us. We didn't ask for any of it. We didn't do anything to deserve it. It was just there. We were just present in it one day. And so it's okay to be grateful in recognition of that beautiful bounty as we come to a time where it gets slower and sadder or colder. Things start to die to give room for the new, to create fertilizer for the spring. And so we're in a very interesting time. It's sort of high energy, but in the process of decelerating. But at the same time, when you have something that's moving really fast and then decelerates, it kind of gets denser for a second, right? If you're moving and you stop, everything kind of squishes. And so it's kind of a dense period of time before it releases again during the slow period. And so we have this sort of fixing taking place. The mutable fire is in a process of moving toward Capricorn, which is an earth elemental concept. We're moving from Sagittarius into Capricorn, right? Right now we're in the 8. We just entered Sagittarius, and so we're in this sort of high energy part of the process of deceleration, which interestingly ends in a big flash in the 10 of Wand at the end of the period. And so that energy can be enjoyed. Enjoy the bounty. Enjoy the work you did all year. We're going to be slowing down soon. And as far as impositions with friends, family, or otherwise, or the holidays that may be stressful, we'll get there. But more appropriately, why does the holiday even exist? Well, we all feel the root of that understanding, right? We all feel the idea that we're really just playing out this universal truth. And in all universal truths, there's the moment before the cold time. There's the moment before the loop in the lemniscate before you go back up. There's that down. In the wheel turning, if you're at the top, you're going to wind up at the bottom. There's always this sort of like phase idea of moving through phases, and as you move through these phases, we're going to find ourselves in the stage prior to slowing down, but we're still high energy. And that's where we are right now. You can even apply that to your day tomorrow. There'll be a period of time tomorrow that is very Eight of Wands in the stages of your day. You may wind up early in the day, and then the rest of your day kind of evolves in a different manner. It may wind up coming out very beautifully in a nice progressive nature, and it all seems to come together. There may be a lot of discord. Nonetheless, the wheel turns. And so, to the writers of the simulation, you didn't do so bad. You could have given us maybe a help menu. That would have been nice. You would have. I think it's a little unfair that some people get to start on cheat mode, and some of us, can't get past level 2 no matter how hard we try. I don't know. Pay to win sucks. But that's okay, because there's always glitches, there's always ways that you can no-clip through a wall, there's always ways that you can turn a party hat into a $2 billion item. And of course people have done that. It's such a strange and interesting analogy coming from a magician. It's a beautiful one, though, and I think it might wind up being the key to unlocking the idea that we are not conscious. We just think that we are, and we are all just part of one bigger will. We are agents. We do have agency. We do have autonomy to a degree, of course. That's undeniable. However, we're an agent in a system, and that system is so much greater than we can imagine. And so don't imagine. Communicate with it. Feel it. Become the speaker. Become the thing spoken. Know the reason behind speaking, so the necessity to speak no longer exists. The necessity for an identity no longer exists. And you can be your true self, devoid of the necessity for any of those things. And just be in the knowledge of the self. Necessity. You gotta feed the body. You gotta breathe. You gotta drink. You gotta bathe. You gotta sleep. These are things that you can't avoid, right? These are things we have to do in order to have a healthy life and to persist. But we do have a decision to make when we're hungry. Which wolf do we feed? There's a good wolf and a bad wolf, right? And they're fighting for your life. Be careful which one you feed, right? We have decisions to make when it's time to breathe. What kind of air is acceptable? We have decisions when we decide to take in music, to take in poetry, to take in AI-generated waifus. Come on, people. This technology costs $5,000 a query for people to use ChatGPT, and we're making cartoon teenagers with big boobs and cat ears. That's what we're doing with it? Are you kidding? I think we should have a rule where if you want to do that, go ahead, but you have to pay for it. It should be $150 per image. I think that would really fix the problem overnight. And would be used as a scholarly tool instead of teaching the robot that that's what we all want. We don't all want that. I don't. I'm tired of having my limbic system played with like it's a toy, and I don't allow it any longer. Haven't for a while. And so I'm immune to that nonsense. But let's not do that any longer, right? We have decisions to make. And so we can decide to insist upon truth. We can decide to insist upon understanding as at least being the goal. Understanding should be the goal, not convincing, not force feeding, not just taking what's fed to us because we don't want to work for it. The truth is easy, it turns out. The truth is free, it turns out. It can't be hidden. It's inside of us, and once you know it's there, it can't be taken away. So, and what is the truth? We have so little control when we are simply autonomously walking through our lives. We have so little control of our thoughts, our actions, our decisions. We need to take the willful step of taking our agency back. Or at least recognizing that we've given it up. That's the first step. That's okay. I mean, at least just own it. And like, okay, yeah, I'm kind of driven by my limbic system, my emotions, my, you know. Yes. And it's one we should strive toward. That should be the goal. When we are teaching, we should teach with understanding being the goal of the teaching. When we are learning, we should not make learning, that's just a word, understanding the goal of that learning. And if we find the subject is not being understood, look at the subject from a different perspective. Instead of the lens of the mind, use the lens of the heart. Instead of the lens of the heart, use the lens of the body. Use the vocabulary. You know, another way of saying that is, do you understand? Do you see what I mean? Can you feel me? Those are three ways of approaching a situation. Do you see, do you understand, and do you feel? And we usually just pick one. You approach the situation mentally, and that's it. And we just don't look at it from the perspective of maybe a more practical approach, or ignore the emotional. And emotion's really good at uncovering more iconic symbols, more, less anthropic, more high level. And then there's the visceral response, the spidey sense, that little tingle that's like, that's not emotion. That's a different kind of, it feels emotional, but it isn't. That's a physical sensation of your body giving you a warning that there might be something, off here. Not necessarily dangerous, just off. But nonetheless, what I'm describing here is utilizing three different lenses in that process. And so you can kind of decide if you're trying to learn a thing and understanding is your goal. We have more tools than just the brain in order to understand. The brain is just one of the ways to understand. Let's see, I'll tell you one thing I'm grateful for. My bird defrosted. Took it out of the freezer just the right time, and it's going to be perfect for tomorrow to get in the oven. And there will be gravy. I'm alone this year. It's just me and my lover, my love, my other, my better, my reason. So it's just going to be the two of us, and we are going to be cooking together, and we're going to have a lot of leftovers. But I'm grateful for that. But mostly, I guess it's going to be the gravy. Yeah. Yeah. There's love. There's finding the one, but no gravy. Oh my God, it's so good too. I mean, like turkey gravy, because the turkey's been in the oven gravy, like not some jar nonsense. I mean, like the real. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Love it. So yeah, I don't know. Was that too honest? Oh, now we're talking. Are we talking about the turkey or the gravy? I guess it doesn't matter. I guess it's both. But really, all kidding aside, there's a couple of years where my Thanksgiving was a box of Kraft macaroni and cheese. Right? Anyone out there did a ramen Thanksgiving all by themselves? Holidays can be weird, and I remember too some of the time. One of my greatest Thanksgivings ever. I was with a church, and I was really young, and I was part of a youth group in a non-denominational Christian church, Protestant. It was Protestant, and I had no family at the time. For Thanksgiving, I was alone for Thanksgiving that year, and that got known. That's not something I broadcasted, but that somehow got known by the pastor. And long story short, I wound up at 3 different meals that night because the pastor, his job was to, pop in on people during the holidays, right? And he said, why don't you come with me? And I said, great. And every time you show up at somebody's house that understands community and understands what the church is really there for, you're invited in and you're given a seat at the table. And it felt good. I was invited into 3 separate places, 3 families, kids hopping around, music, the whole 3 totally different family experiences, tagging along with the pastor. And it was, it was an interesting day. Long time ago, I made my first turkey. I didn't take the Oh, been there. God bless. Good for you for admitting it. I've done it too. I'll admit it. I didn't know either. It's even funny. I'll even be more honest. I acted like I knew what I was doing, and so when it happened to me, it was my moment of kind of being called out, and it was pretty humiliating. Yeah. Why does the stuffing taste like plastic? No. Yeah, I learned that the hard way, man. I tell you what. Sometimes careful if you pretend like you know what you're doing. That's funny. That's true. So Tana Mary, if you're in the room, you got to let us know what you're cooking tonight, because Thanksgiving is like a weird American holiday. I mean, there's similar periods of time, obviously, again, because we're talking about the energy between the period of time when we had that big bouncy, the harvest, and the death of the king, the slowing of the winter, right? And so we're in that, and that's going to manifest in different cultures in different ways. Oh no. Wax paper. Interesting, though. It's an interesting holiday, and the there's a lot of ups and downs about it. There's a lot of different opinions about it, and I think what we need to do is again sort of step back and take that magical understanding of the fact that what we're really speaking about here is being grateful for that harvest and the recognition that although we participated in the process and did the work, and we hoed the fields and we watered the thing, we pruned and all these things, we still we're not responsible for where it all came from, and it's always all a gift. And so there's a recognition of that happens during gratitude. And that being said, If anyone did like the video, I appreciate it. That really means a lot. Kind of letting the bots know that we're doing something here that some people care about. So thank you for the interaction. So, does anyone have any big plans tomorrow? My plans are to sleep in and start cooking as soon as we wake up. I don't know if I'm going to catch football or not. I think I'm going to skip it this year. I don't even know who's playing. I mean, I guess Detroit, but maybe not, right? Who knows? The world's changing. Cowboys? I guess the Cowboys are playing at some point. I don't know. I have to look. To all the football fans, enjoy it. I hope your team wins. Unless you're a Cowboys fan. No, I kid. No. Yeah, you guys remember what we did to Romo. I didn't forget. All right, so that said, though, if you have plans for tomorrow, awesome. I hope they go great and they're not too crazy. Don't forget, they're not going to go as planned. Tomorrow will not go as planned. Set your expectations to a realistic level. But it's going to be fun anyway, isn't it? It's always more fun than you think it'll be if you just let yourself have it. Book the Uber before you get there so it's just ready to drive you home. For those that party in that way. I had a couple of people in my life that enjoyed Thanksgiving a little too much. But that's fun. That's what it's all about. And we'll be hitting some things during the live stream, too, through this period of time as we bump into different holidays and different rituals and different ways that cultures express these ideas through their symbols and rituals and the stories they tell. It's not just deep in the mythology, it's in the memes, it's in the idiosyncratic language of the time, it's in the subconscious symbols that kind of form our interpretation of these stories and our place in forming the new. What does it mean to move through the aeons? This evolution, the age of Aquarius, all these things. Like, what is that really talking about other than this evolution of DNA from the being that we were to the being that we will become? Not us individually, but the race. And us individually get to do that in a single lifetime at the same time. And hopefully we pass that gift on. And that understanding grows. The thing having the experience is DNA. The thing that's being passed on is DNA. The thing that's growing and initiating and remembering and forgetting is DNA. And so contribute to that. And at the same time, we got to get out of our own ways, right? So we can enjoy the ride at the same time. Like that's what we're here to do. Enjoy participating. Have fun splashing in the pool. Poke the universe and figure out where it's ticklish. Spoiler, it's your neck. Everybody's ticklish in the neck. If you're not ticklish in your neck, you're weird. That's right, I said it first. Right? I'm especially ticklish in my mind. My favorite place to be touched in my mind is the place that's never been touched before. And that's not always easy to find, right? That's not always easy to get to. There's so much that's already been said, already been done, already been seen, already been felt. I mean, there's new stuff. There's universes of new stuff. There's universes of new sensation, new smell, new taste. And where is it? It's latent in us when we recognize what's actually occurring and we change our perspective such that we are no longer the agent, but the thing that the agent wields. We give in to the fact that we're the dance and not the dancer. We give in to the fact that we're the song. And when it's our time, we hit the note. Without fear. With authenticity. With truth and understanding. Being the goal of that song. I want them to know what I mean when I sing this note. I want them to know what I mean. Not just hear the words. And you can do that very easily with a tone of voice, with the right melody, with the right conviction in your words when you are being authentic. It's easy. It happens automatically. I'm not going to say it's effortless. You still need to breathe and speak and decide on your words, but it's very close to effortless. It's like swimming with the current in a river. You're still swimming, so there's some work being done there, but you're going really fast, right? And a lot faster than if you were swimming against it. That's the goal. And that's the thing that is most accessible to us. Like right now, without so much of the difficulties that we think, is the ability to do just that. Take any subject you're currently in the state of wanting to learn, get better at, improve your command, whatever it is. You can utilize another vocabulary and overlay it on that to have a deeper understanding. And so, and without a direct example, sometimes it's not always obvious. And so one of the things that I talk about a lot is the tarot with respect to where these symbols came from. So let's just give an example. Just going to pull a random card. This is actually a very deep Kabbalistic card that's happening right here, the Chariot. And so where does the symbol for the Chariot come from? Well, we can get more guidance by looking at the language of the Kabbalistic system. This is the Chariot, this path between Binah and Gevurah, right? The number 5 and the number 3 here on this tree. And so by looking at the Kabbalistic system and applying it to the tarot, we can understand a little bit more what the motivation of the Charioteer is. The Charioteer is attempting to carry the cup across the abyss back to Binah. And of course, who is Binah? The cup. How beautiful is that? And why does he not realize that? And why does she not realize when she sees him coming that he's carrying her? Because of this abyss. That abyss is what confuses that. We're both looking into a mirror. So just one more time. Binah sees the Charioteer, but she's looking into a mirror, and the cup he's holding is her. The Charioteer looks up and sees the object of his desire. And he's rushing toward himself. And then there's a collision here that's not necessarily the best way, and confusion can come. This isn't the right path up. What this winds up happening is she gets filled up by that fact, and that winds up spilling out as Hesed. That's why he's blue. That spilling out is a descent back down. It's kind of like the loop starts all over again. But the idea of this magic is very powerful. There's a lot of ways to talk about that. The blood of the saints, the cup of Christ, the Holy Grail, the return, all these things. The Chariot is carrying the cup back. And some of the symbolism you'll see Kabbalistically here will be the two pillars of the tree are these two right? You have the mercy and severity, the black and white pillar. And also the idea of Hokmah and Binah. Hokmah and Binah are the sort of primordial couple. It's a very profane statement, but it's kind of hard to really understand what's happening here. Essentially, Keter started to shine, was not aware that that was taking place, saw himself, and these two, emerged, and it sort of, gave birth to duality. That's a very simple, oversimplified version. But the charioteer is right here, right? And so, if we want to understand the tarot more, we can use the Kabbalistic system. If we want to understand something else, now that we understand those two systems, it may even give us some further guidance in what astrology is all about. Because we learn in astrology that the chariot is Cancer. And so Cancer is this period of time, right, between Gemini and Leo. It's a water sign. And we have cardinal, fixed, and immutable to talk about. And so let's go ahead and pop this wheel up here. I have it sort of bigger so it makes it more clear. Pardon me for jumping around. But you'll see that each one of these signs has cardinal, fixed, or mutable assigned to it, right? The cardinal fire, mutable water, fixed air, so forth. And so if we consider that what we're speaking about with respect to Cancer, which is the chariot, and that path on the tree, we're moving from mutable air into cardinal water into fixed fire. And that's a very alchemical process that's happening right there. Air, water, fire, mutable, cardinal, fixed. And we've heard these words before. So when we want to interrogate the understanding of Cancer with respect to the tarot card of the chariot, we can look at the idea of the alchemical process here. The cardinal, fixed, and mutable is another way of saying salt, sulfur, and mercury. And so the cardinal is the sulfur. The mutable is the mercury. The fixed is the salt. And so we are in the high motion phase. You'll often hear that Cancer is active. There's movement and motion going on. It's the fiery sort of part of water in that respect. It's the cardinal part, meaning it's the energetic. Cardinal being the sulfur of the salt, sulfur, and mercury, the heat part of those three. And so there's all these different vocabularies that lead us to this understanding that ultimately at the end of the day, what we're speaking about with this concept of the chariot, suddenly we know why it has movement and motion. It's about carrying up. No, it's about cardinality because that's the sulfur. No, they all manifested in their own way, this same symbol system, spoken in different languages. That's all. And so that's an example of how, using different modalities will give you an understanding of where it all came from. And the small cards are very, very similar to that. Okay, let's just use that as an example since it's there. Very, very similar idea that we're talking about here, right? We go to our wheel here and we can look at, for instance, the Four of Cups. Pardon me, there you go. Right, the Four of Cups right here, which is the moon in Cancer. Right away, you're going to go, okay, that sounds like a movement, but kind of slowed. The moon is sort of like this somber energy as far as the darkness. It reflects instead of casting. It's receptive, and so it's kind of dimmer as far as brightness is concerned, right? In the language of brightness, it's dimmer. In the language of energy, it's slower. These kind of things. Especially next to Mercury, it's definitely in a state of deceleration. But that said, and it's at the end of dissension before Malkut. But this Four of Cup, it's the moon in Cancer. That's where the symbol comes from for the idea of this card. The symbols aren't arbitrary. When it was originally decided, the titles of these cards and the entities that they invoke, right? The energy of the intelligence that they point to. And so, if you find yourself in a simulation, don't think that you're stuck only seeing it from the perspective that we originally find ourselves in. We might have a capacity to, sort of no-clip through the wall. We might have the capacity to kind of peer inside by using some of these tools. Ways to decode what some of these statements are saying. Look at some of these poetic statements that are made by some of the ancients and get a sense of what they really meant. What were they hiding when in their secrets? I mean, some of them were just gatekeeping, but some of them were trying not to be burned at the stake, right? There's a lot of reasons that secrets are a thing. It's not always the act of hiding for some ill intent. Sometimes you're hiding to protect yourself, and they certainly were.
I can think again.
And nowadays, it's not being hidden, it's being overtaken for profit, and it's being weaponized for control. And so we have to certainly be aware of that at all times, but it doesn't prevent us from having access to it either. It is a level playing field. The truth is free. It can't be gatekept. It can't be bought. It can't be sold. It can be had. It can be taken by you, from you. Let's see if I lower my light once. Does that become a little more visible? Kind of. I haven't perfected the lighting. I'm having some issues with one of my cameras and some stuff, so it's not an ideal setup here, and I apologize for the grainy quality and so forth. I tried to use my best judgment with my graphics, at least, so this should all be relatively sharp. I hope it is, and that you guys are able to see what it is I'm talking about. If you want full versions of this in high resolution, they're available for free to the world with no attribution necessary for sharing. Do whatever you want with it on my Discord. Just go to my Discord, and a lot of the stuff and the tools I use here on the channel is available to anyone that wants it. And I encourage you to share it.
I know what you're thinking.
It needs to remain free. People need to be able to know that they can get this stuff and use it and share it without having to worry about copyright or any of this other nonsense. So I created that rose myself with my own hands. It's based on the Rosicrucian Golden Dawn based rose, but that's 100% my creation. I even have the Photoshop file layers, the layered file to provide if you'd like as well. If you want to swap the Tzadi or some other things, right? So I have a black and white version that I use for teaching, for coloring, that I hand out. But so that said, there's some handy stuff, and I'm available as well if you have any questions or need any tools that you feel might benefit the community. I'm the kind of crazy fool that will make it. Right, I'm actually in the middle of developing a working thelemic temple inside of Blender so that you can see the inner workings of the inside of a temple from every angle, not just the ones people choose to photograph. Right, and so right now I've worked through the Tablet of Union, the Watchtowers, the Black Cross of the Enochian system, right, and in high-res 3D, and is available to anyone who wants it. Just email me and ask, and it's yours. As well as a lot of stuff like that. If there's any tools that you feel the world can benefit from, let's talk and let's make it. For instance, I think I'm gonna after the holiday have another stream talking about bead magic and the bead oracle and how to read this as a tarot vocabulary in order that you can put together your own oracle very easily just from crystals or beads, and sort of read the whole deck all at once as opposed to one card at a time. It's really a beautiful technique, and whenever I share it, it's people, me too, the colors. Look at them for a minute. What are we looking at but us? This is the universe splashing together in the great myriad of colors that comes from that, right? Just the colors. Some of these are really something. Some pretty beads in here. And I love these teardrops. The little mini bells. And some other stuff in this, you know, the significator, like what is it pointing at? I love the beads. Oops! Oh my gosh, Ganesha, my guy. Okay, buddy. He likes it when I rub his belly. Come on, you haven't lived until you've rubbed Ganesha's belly. That's cute. My grandmother had a statue of Buddha made of marble in her living room growing up. And whenever we were there for the holidays, I would rub the Buddha's belly and make a wish. Good stuff. Love it. So, I think this is another moment I'm just going to kind of take a pause and ask anybody if you have any questions or insight or anything interesting that you want to discuss. You know, like what's going on with the Pope. That's some fun stuff. He made a statement. Filioque. Vi doninos thinking filioque. We could talk about what's going on in maybe some of the different parts of the world and how we can take the magical perspective on that and get some insight on really what's really going on. What are the machinations? How can we better understand and work within the direction that the world seems like it's going? It does seem like it's batshit, and it might just be. We might just be on a bird that's going crazy, and we're sort of like stuck in its feathers and have no idea where it's about to travel, but hang on. As soon as it lands, we'll be okay. And it will land. Can't stay in the air forever. Never does. And then when it finally calms down, we can talk to it. Let it know it's time. And it's going to know. And when we get to that 10, we find ourselves at the end of that period. Boop it on the beak. You first. Because the Ten of Wands is going to be a scary time for that bird. It has to jump into the fire and be reborn. And you know, just because the phoenix is reborn from the flames doesn't mean that it's looking forward to the process. Right? Even people who believe in heaven don't want to die to get there. And so, yeah, it's going to be a weird time, but for right now, we're not even close to that. So it's just a wild ride. When you see the symbolism in the Eight of Wands, it always has this idea of like very intense motion and movement, and it's a powerful kind of vibe. Mercury in Sagittarius. Of course it's a lot of motion and movement. It's Mercury in Sagittarius, man. I mean, it doesn't get faster than that. Fire, fire, fire all over the place, right? Mutability is like the liquidy form of the elements, so it's like a liquidy form of fire. A lot of movement and motion there. We have the Mercury energy of the planetary connection. Jupiter rules Sagittarius, and so you have Mercury and Jupiter, which is a strong, powerful energy, but very, right, especially the 8. And again, we're in a state of deceleration. We go to the moon, Saturn, and then we hit Earth. But cardinal Earth. And why? Because it's got some of that leftover heat. Right? It's not fixed Earth, it's cardinal. There's still some warmth in there. And when we get to the Capricorn period is when it's going to get fun. That's my rising sign. I am a Sagittarius sun, but I'm a Capricorn rising. You can tell because of how dramatic I am when I say it. Hi there. I'm a Capricorn rising. Thank you for noticing. I kid. That's the most Sagittarius thing I've said all day. Those who know me know that I'm in jest. A happy cap. Most of the time, yeah. Yeah, were you a billy goat or a mountain goat, right? One will eat anything, and one is really, really picky. It's a very strange, interesting kind of energy up there in Capricorn, you know. The Devil card. The letter Ein. So, grateful. I'm grateful for the technology and the ability to do this. I'm grateful for being able to come back and kind of having the strength to do it. Ibex, there you go. Love it. See, this person knows the Thoth, right? Let me show you my my Sun and Rising court card. Because Crowley, when it comes to that period of time, represented Capricorn with an ibex. And so let me show you the artwork. This is his Devil card. This is Capricorn. But more appropriately is the Queen of Pentacles. There she is. And why do I say that? Well, just to be clear, Capricorn is ruled by the Queen of Discs, right? She starts at the end of Sagittarius, which is the period of time of the Ten of Wands, between December 13th and 21st. And the Queen of Discs ends at the second decan of Capricorn, that third 10-degree period, rather, which is the Three of Pentacle, or Disc. And so she covers that entire period of time between the 10, 2, and 3, okay? And so that's moving from Sagittarius into Capricorn. And so she reflects Capricorn. She's an earthy vibe. Not just due to the fact that she's disc, but because she's moving into Capricorn, which is an earth sign. And yeah, the ibex was the symbol that the, at least in the thelemic system. And you know, the ibex was chosen by Crowley due to the symbolic nature of the spiral in the horn, right? And that spiral has to do with, well, it has many meanings. The DNA, the nature of the fact that things ascend, and as they do, they get tighter, right? And so if you notice, it's not just a spiral, right? It spirals, and the spiral gets tighter as it goes up. I actually have a horn on the top of my wand, but it's not ibex. When I find the correct piece, it will be there. Here it is now, though. I'll share it. For the period. I like the dragon eating its own tail as a symbol for fire, and through that process, kind of like with that, you know, with the flame. From this perspective, it's a flame, like a yud, but from this perspective, you can see it's the, you know, the dragon, the head and the tail of the dragon, which is an astrological symbol, and you know, the Trinity. Now, but an ibex would be a more appropriate animal from you know, a certain symbolic perspective. It's there's nothing wrong with the horn that I'm using. But personally, I think it would be really cool because, you know, I can kind of gel and with that symbolism of the spiral. Right now, it's manifested in my wand on the bottom. It's an ebony staff. And there's a serpent curved into the bottom, winding up. And so it is there. I do have a spiral on my wand. It's just not in the form of the horn. One day I'll reveal it. It's quite something. It's probably the witchiest shit you'll ever see. But yeah, it's. I'm proud of it. I'm just too chicken shit to share it right now. I'll get over it. So, who's Capricorn here? Anyone got any Capricorn in their suns, moons, risings? Any partners that have any Capricorn going on in their stuff that they know about? I know a couple people here. We have a bunch of signs floating around, but I don't know any Capricorn off the top of my head. Just myself and the rising. You know, because Sagittarius is a fun time. You can't deny that Sagittarius is fun. It's permission to participate in that heat, knowing that it's, you know, like, just let it loose because it's going to get cold and slow. And so now's the time. We've done the harvest, and it's time to have the feast. That period between Samhain and Yule. It's one of the reasons that I decided to kind of up the energy on the music a little bit, was because it was sort of like I wanted to illustrate that higher energy. And as we move through the month, it's going to slow down. You know, until finally we find a nice, quiet, consistent March as the beginning of the winter. This beautiful moment where the sun stops and pauses for a period of time before starting back up. At the winter solstice. It's a really neat period of time, I tell you what. It's so beautiful and magical. And we can't forget that holographically, like an echo, like a rhyme, that happens throughout our lives, our days, our hours. The length of this live stream, from when I started until I end, or people who are watching it after the fact. From when you started watching until the end. And somewhere in that time period will be that period of time where it got to a culmination emotionally for you and was a period that you felt oversatisfied. And that's the period of right before going back down and finding that slow, kind of steady understanding that we find in the stages of Capricorn and the 2, 3, and 4 of Pentacle. That motion turning into a goal that's solid as opposed to it just being ideas. Those ideas begin to take shape and get delegated and get shared. For that 4 of Pentacle, which is the most solid, one of the most solid symbols of the small cards, for sure. So to kind of wrap up the idea of what we started talking about. Yes. We are in a simulation. But we're not the ones that are viewing it. We're not the ones having the dream. What we are is the thing being dreamed. We're not the speaker, we're the thing being spoken. And it's from that position, it's from being the form of that we can see the speaker and the listener. We can alleviate the necessity to speak, and so the necessity for an identity, to choose a vocabulary, doesn't even exist. And authenticity is guaranteed. We're guaranteed to be our true selves if there's no necessity to lie, to limit through words, to choose an identity, to maximize effect. None of that matters. And instead we can just be ourselves. And in that moment of being ourselves, we can recognize ourselves in others. Understanding is guaranteed. Acceptance is guaranteed. Tolerance, it's part of the process. Anger becomes love because we see ourselves in the other and recognize that we're capable of the same thing. So how can we judge? Instead, let's heal. Let's alleviate the need to go there to begin with, and so we can just move forward knowing who we are. It is possible. The first step is admitting it. That we don't always control what we think. We don't always control the why we act. And so we have to take a step back and look at it and say, wait a minute now. Why do I feel that way? Is that how I really feel, or is that how I've been made to feel? Is that what I want, or is that just what my body wants because it was trained to want that, but it's not actually healthy? Is that really the kind of relationship I want to get into again? Or do I want to do it right this time? And insist on certain qualities, certain ways of being treated, certain ways of being spoken to, certain sense of loyalty. It's funny what that happens when you begin to walk into your true self. The things that you used to think were so important disappear. The things that we give so much power to lose their power, and we begin to insist upon certain things in our life that are good for us. And then what winds up happening? Those things begin to appear in our life. Why? Because they're already there. They're just kind of being clouded by the other stuff. And so when that all kind of clears, we have this opportunity to see the thing that we never knew we always wanted, which is in a lot of cases peace and safety, permission to be ourselves without the fear of being judged, at least in our own homes, at least with the people that are supposed to love us or claim to. And we can also recognize the weakness, the ones that we hide in ourselves and see in others and then judge. And we can recognize that in others, and instead of judging, say, wait a minute, actually, that's just revealing a part of me I don't like. And if we all kind of just owned that fear, we could let go of it together. I'm ready to let go. I just want to be careful about who I let that go to, right? And it's okay to do that. And when you do, it forces the world to earn the right to be in your presence. And I don't mean that in some elitist way. I mean that I'm not going to allow you to injure me. I'm not going to allow you to make me feel any less than I know that I am, any more than I know that I am, any different than I know I want to be, when I'm being honest about myself and the world. That relationship is yourself too. That's the relationship we have with ourselves. That voice in our heads, that nagging sensation, the feeling of anxiety or urgency when it's not necessary. I hate that. Man, I hate that. It doesn't go away, spoiler, but you can get really skilled at working with it and around it and understanding that sometimes you have to act in spite of fear, and sometimes you have to act in spite of anxiety. You have to act in spite of tiredness and feeling like you're never going to get it. And that's where we give ourselves permission, take a step back, and come back with a different perspective that has a different set of necessities, a different set of tools and words, and isn't encumbered by that same fear, because it's a totally different approach. You can't say it's not going to work because you haven't tried it yet. It's something new. It's hope. It's possibility. And we have a chance to do that at every moment. We don't have to ever settle for not knowing. All right, so I'm going to give it a couple of minutes here and wrap it up. If anyone has any questions or anything we talked about tonight, you can give me a call at the number that's going to be on the screen right up here in just a moment, or you can, hit the Discord, email, all kinds of stuff. I'm all over the place. Go to the website, voiceandlight.com. I've been bouncing around on Twitch a little bit. I'm on Twitch under my magical name, which is Saturnus Lux. Otherwise, I'm going to be popping on here once a day. Even tomorrow, there'll be a point when I pop on. Actually, I might wind up streaming tomorrow longer than most days, right? And so Tanamera, Brianna, Melly, Kitten, anybody else that popped in and listened, thank you so much. Anyone who's watching this after the fact, if you have any insights that you want to share, we're all here to learn. If you have any questions about what we talked about tonight and you want to get clarification, if you want to stick it to me that I didn't get a certain thing right and that I should be a little more careful, you can hit me up on the Discord in the comments below or otherwise. And otherwise, have a wonderful Thanksgiving. If you're outside of the United States, have a great day. This is a good time to be grateful. And be grateful of the truth. Be grateful that we have the opportunity to know ourselves. Happy Turkey Day. And you know, it just comes down to giving ourselves the permission to receive that. So when we do hear that voice, we know it's us speaking. And just remember that I love you always.